Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to today's show, the Beautifully Bruised and CPS show. I am so glad that you're tuning in with us. I do have a special treat for you today. I do believe it's something that's going to hit you a little different as far as, experience, because I've always thought nothing is like you personally being affected by something, right? You personally going through something yourself. So I think that this segment hopefully will allow you to chime in on what the experience is like. And I'm hoping you can see me just fine today. I'm a little trying to get things together, but again, I welcome to the Beautifully Bruised and CPS show. I am your host, Latrika Jones, and I'm very grateful to be here today. Anybody know I always start out with my show, I give thanks to my Lord and Savior Jesus, because he gives me the strength to keep going, to my God, just to, life be lifing. Let's just be honest, right? And so he gives me the strength to keep going, even when I don't want to. Okay. I think that's so important. So to kick off the show again, I always give honor and thanks to my Lord and Savior, because he's my all in all and everything, and he makes everything possible for me. Where the world says no, he says yes. And listen, it's a done deal after that. So you don't know him, you definitely want to get to know him. Okay. So I'm hoping everybody had a really good weekend. This weekend, like I say, I know we're coming off a week on Monday, and I see this as Monday motivation. Okay, hopefully this is something that can give you starting out your strength and your encouragement to get through this week, whether it's dealing with CPS, whether it's just being able to deal with yourself. Sometimes it's just a test to get out of the bed. It's a test to just go in that office, to deal with the people at your job, to deal with family. Sometimes it can all be very challenging. So I wanted to tap in, because I even shared this with the producer, Grace. This is something this weekend that I realized, and I wanted to know, since we do the show, and again, this is a show, Attorney Ben's platform, that he provides so much plethora of advice, legal advice that you need with CPS cases. So if you are at a place where you think you need representation, I highly recommend you reach out to Attorney Vince if he's available. And if not, find some type of reputable attorney that has wise counsel they can provide you and knows CPS laws, and they are aggressive and willing to work and fight for your children to return to be returned back home where they belong. Okay. That's the whole goal of why we do this show. So please like and share and subscribe. This platform that you see at the bottom, the number, contact information, the link, the email, it's open 24/7. So anytime you just feel like you need to be encouraged, inspired, want to, learn something about your case, or know other people that may be going through the same thing, this is a great platform to tune into, to become engaged and to learn, right? Because iron sharpens iron. So that's why I love that this platform is available. I wish years ago, when I was going through my CPS case, that I would have had this type of resource at me at any given time. So with that being said, like I say, speaking about our kids, this weekend, I just decided, after going to church and hearing a powerful word, and sometimes you can be dealing with something you don't even realize you're dealing with it. I think my system might be freezing a little bit. I'm hoping that you can hear what I'm saying, but I won't be before you long today. This would be a small segment. I heard somebody say that it can be a segment. I don't have to always be long. It could be, it might not be as long, but it's still strong. The message still comes across, and that's the whole point for me. So with that being said, I got a chance to spend some time with my son, and he shared with me, I'm going to try to get to this letter that he wrote. If I don't get to it today, I'm going to try to, read it next time. But he literally, after church, I took him out to dinner, and we had a good time, and just watching him in his element, as a kid, just skipping and jumping and playing. And it's just, it even reminded me back in the day, you little, you don't really have cares in the world, right? You don't have bills or or someone, your caregiver is providing for you, and you don't have to worry about some of the troubles of the world like an adult, having to go to work, pay the bills, and those type of things. So as I was, spending time with him this weekend, I just saw the child, and I know that's something that God loves. God loves the innocence of children, because again, they're not infected with nothing or dealing with adult situations. It's just, they could just be children that they're supposed to be, right? They shouldn't have to be worrying about anything and stressed out and, sad and depressed, just all the things that normally, once you get older, you probably have to deal with. But the reason why I'm sharing this is that I had a good heart-to-heart conversation. I spoke to my son before because, like I said, I've been through CPS personally. It was years ago, thank God. And I know what it's like, your child being removed, but by the grace and mercy of God, I refused to quit. I kept fighting for my child, which is what I always tell you to do. And, I just did everything my attorney advised me to do. And I did overcome. Yes, every single thing they tried, and everybody that have watched the show shared a lot of things that they tried to do to me. Horrible things to get me to lose my child, to get me to give up on him. But I overcame everything that they tried to do. Even my attorney said, God must be hearing your prayers. Everything, literally everything they were trying to do, CPS, God blocked it. Everything crumbled and fell to the ground. Every single thing. And they tried it nearly over a year. And it was at a point where, like I say, it was so much that they were trying to do. The judge ordered them to return my child back to me. Okay. So again, I understand personally what it's like, because not only did I survive CPS, I overcame CPS. And that's the reason why I'm here. I do believe God say, I'm going to use your story. I'm going to use your story to inspire people, to encourage people. Just like I brought you out, I'm the same God that can bring them out, as long as they put me first and do, accordingly what they're supposed to be doing. Because we all know faith without works is dead, right? We have to also do the work ourselves as we're going along through the process. So I know how horrible and how much of a horror story that CPS can be. So with that being said, that's the reason why, like I said, it's been years ago. And have they tried other things since then? Absolutely. I do believe it's like a Pandora box. Once you make it out, they try to creep back in any kind of shape, form, or fashion that they can, since they've had your information in the system, even if it's been years ago. But once when you know better, you do better. And can't nobody tell you just anything anymore. I will never fall for things that I once fell for before, thinking like, oh, it's okay to let them in. Oh, it's okay to talk to them. Absolutely not. They could be using that same information that you're just trying to be nice, letting them in. They can use that same information against you. And again, I am not an attorney, but I am a mother who have experience of dealing with CPS, who have survived CPS, and who overcame CPS, where the judge ordered them to return my child back home. So with that being said, I just want to come on here, like I said, this weekend, I spent some time with my son, and I got a chance to talk to him. I asked him, I said, I wanted to know what it was like when you were with CPS. My son is a little older now, so he's able to, unpack more, explain more what it was like. Because sadly, sometimes a lot of kids, if they've been in that system long enough, they don't forget what they went through. It's a famous saying that you might forget what a person say, but you will never forget how they made you feel. Um, and that's the same thing to me, like CPS. You might forget the names and things of that sort, but you never forget how it made you feel when you was in CPS custody. I want to say it was Angelo who made that powerful quote, that statement. So, like I said, I was with my son this weekend, and he shared his experience with CPS and how it made him feel. He recalled being misplaced in a facility that was eventually shut down due to negligence. And this is a pretty large facility here locally where I'm at, and I'm located in the state of Texas. This facility was shut down. And when I saw it on the news, it did share that they were over sedating the children that was locked in that facility. And it was a facility that went from little bitty kids on up to adults. I was surprised to see how they had so many different ages of kids literally, I want to say, locked in one place together, all from a 4-year old up to a teenager up until maybe older than that, like young adults, like sardines in a sardines can. And when I saw that, it just broke my heart. And so much so, I even sadly heard where one of the children that was locked in this facility, I do believe they committed suicide, and just horrible, horrible, horrible things that these children was facing. Thank God that facility was exposed and they were shut down for negligence, and also the damage they caused those children that were locked in that facility. Okay. I do know my son said he remembered while he was inside that facility seeing shadows under the door. He also witnessed how CPS caseworkers would, when they would come over, you know how they have a lot of those visits. Sometimes they even be at random. One of the attorneys that work with CPS, they would always question him, almost like, he felt like, excuse me, he was being interrogated. It's almost like they're questioning to see what can they use with what they're saying, I think, to help fit their narrative with what they're trying to pin against the parents. So they will come over and ask him a lot of questions. And to me, I don't think that kids should be questioned like that, in that type of way. To me, it was a form of interrogation, if you want to know my honest to God truth, because a child his age at the time, 4 or 5 years old, shouldn't have to worry about those type of questions, from someone like CPS or their representation. So again, I do know the horror that CPS brings to you and your family, and my heart sincerely goes out to you, because it is something that it's hard to explain unless you have personally experienced it yourself. So with that being said, I noticed that when he got back home, I noticed when he was in the system, his energy seemed different. You could kind of tell maybe he was stressed out, going through so many changes. And I see why he wrote the letter that he wrote today. It helped to answer that question. I noticed also that any talk with CPS, it triggers him to think back to the horror that he experienced when he was under or in CPS care. So I just have to tell you, because of all the stuff that I personally witnessed, my son shared that he experienced, please don't never give up fighting for your kids. Don't ever give up fighting for your kids. Okay. And I'm hoping that my story and my son's story be a true testimony of what they take your children through, and why it's so important that you do the work. You hire wise legal attorney like Attorney Vince, or someone, if you can't get Attorney Vince, to represent you to fight for your kids. I tried it on my own, and honestly, it was outside my pay grade. I've said that before. It was outside of my capacity. And when you're going through something that's that's bigger than you, that you're going to have to seek wise legal counsel. And no, God have put attorneys in positions for a reason. They are there for a reason. So why not utilize their gift to bringing back your child back home where they belong, so you can continue out your legacy with your children, okay? Because they are worth the fight, and they deserve you to be fighting for them. And again, it's not easy. Trust me, I know. I've been through it, but I truly believe where there is a will, there is definitely a way, okay? And with that being said, I'm just going to briefly, the letter's not that long, but my son was his heart was he felt so much about how CPS did him, and he really do care about people. And he wanted to write a letter You never know who's watching. Okay, you just never know who's watching, from people that is currently dealing with CPS, who might have overcame CPS. It could be city officials, it could be attorneys, it could be entertainment industry people, media, any walks of Jones of life that's watching. But this letter is literally from a heart of a child that was once in custody by CPS, and he wants other kids that's going through what he once had to be in himself, and the parents and families of these CPS children to know what it's like from a child perspective, from a child being in that CPS custody system. He's saying that my experience with CPS was terrible. It was terrible. These are his exact words he'd written on this letter, that his experience was terrible. This is what he had written down. That's the first sentence. My experience with CPS was terrible. And again, for someone that may be tuning in late, I am reading a letter from a child that was once in CPS custody sharing his experience. Okay. He's saying again that my experience with CPS was terrible. When I would wake up and sleep, there would be ants in the bed with me. So he was literally waking up with ants in the bed. Okay. And Lord knows what else could be crawling or going through those walls on those floors. And he also wrote that he had to switch his location around a lot. He had to switch his location around a lot. And anybody know a child that is dealing with autism or autism on the spectrum, that is very important for them to have structure. I think they're some of the brightest, most intelligent people on this earth. And honestly, talking to other people, some people have agreed with me and said, maybe we need to catch up with them. So many ways intellectually, they might be brighter than we are, because they process differently, but they really are geniuses in their own rights. They're very, very smart. They just have a different rhythm and way, in the way that they process. And but I do know, with having a child that's on the spectrum, autism spectrum, that they do process differently. But I tell you what, academic wise, they can outshine many children, academic wise. Like I say, they may have challenges as far as their behavior. I know they may be sensitive to taste, smell, and sensories and things of that nature. But again, they are gifted within their own rights. And I just know that with these particular children, that it is a certain type of structure that is important for them to have. And when they don't have that, that can easily trigger them in a different kind of way. So by him saying that he was switched around a lot, and we do know when a child sadly are placed in foster homes, they can be. They can be switched at any given time. They can be taken away at any given time. I've even watched a documentary where one foster mom, she kept a great supply of trash bags for her kids that will come in and out of her foster home, because the kids could leave at any given moment and may not have time to pack their belongings. So she would have to always make sure they had trash bags available for the kids that were always on the go. And that is so sad to me, that a child have to always be living like that. And, always living in almost like fear of flight. One minute you here, one minute you have to go. You can never settle in a lot of times, and you're just always on the move. And I just think that's, again, all I can say is, please don't ever stop fighting for your children to bring them out of a system that allows these shenanigans to go on. Okay. And he also, on the second letter he wrote, there were a lot of new people too, of course, because they're always, getting new CPS cases. There are always new investigations. There are always, or, a lot of time these CPS cases are done from the doctor's office, from hospitals, from schools, from daycares, from people that might not really like you or have something personally against the parents or the family members, and they just call CPS and use it as a weapon out of spite. So even your own family members can be calling CPS on on you. Again, there could be schools, doctor's office, nurses, office, anything like that. That's normally where these investigations begin to formulate. So be mindful of that as well. So, like I say, since they're always bringing in new families, I always said from my experience, it seemed like CPS is strongly connected to money, power, and politics. And because of that, that's why a lot of these cases are worldwide. You have CPS cases that's taking place in Alaska. It's places that you would never imagine. But this is, to me, seem to be an epidemic that's all over the world, sadly. This is a system that is broken, that is corrupt, and need to be rebuilt from the ground up, if you ask me my personal experience and what my thoughts are. Okay, and so with that being said, I'm continuing to read the letter from a child that experienced CPS. He said since there were always new faces, couldn't hardly get used to people because they were constantly being changed out. The kids coming in and out of the foster care system, that he didn't feel comfortable. He actually said he felt uncomfortable and he worried. And my God, that's sad for a child to say they're worried. I mean, if you really think about that, we know as adults sometimes we worry, right? Because we're dealing with situations. But as a child, why should you have to worry? You know, he wrote on the letter literally that he was worried. Um, when I came, he did went on to say when he finally was released to come home, when the judge ordered CPS to return my child back home, he felt relieved. Okay, because he got a chance to be able to eat or be able to drink more. My goodness. Don't tell me it's a food shortage too. But I will tell you sadly that I do know someone personally that shared a sad story to me that said that once he was in CPS foster care, he was not allowed to sleep on the bed. He had to literally sleep under the bed. True story. When he was in foster care, and this is someone else I'm speaking about, but they shared with me that they were not to sleep on the bed. They could only sleep under the bed. So I cannot emphasize enough. You don't know what these families, what they're doing to these children. Obviously, this person couldn't have been in their right mind. Why in the world would you bring in a family, or you would volunteer to be a foster parent and only for the kids to sleep under the bed? Now, if that is not crazy or insane, and I hate to think, if you're making your foster kids sleep on the bed, what in the world? What else are you doing that's deranged? And that CPS, they don't, these things are going on, and they're not getting these kids probably pulled away from them. They continue to allow the kids to come in, and they're getting compensated for how they're treating these children. And he specifically said, and this is a fact, I'm speaking to someone personally who shared this with me, that they were only able to sleep under the bed when they was in foster care, and they worked them almost like a slave. Like they never knew what shows were on television. In school where maybe you had a favorite sitcom. I used to like Punky Brewster. Okay. I love Punky Brewster. I love Different Strokes, things like that. The Jeffersons, Good Times, those are just the shows I like when I was a little girl in middle school and high school. Those are shows I would like to come home and watch. Really Punky Brewster, because I loved, just anyway. I'm getting off the subject, but I just wanted to say that I remember he personally shared that his childhood never consisted of him having favorite shows, because he was in foster care growing up the whole time, and they wouldn't allow him to watch television to get a break because he was too busy doing all the cleaning. So you don't even know sometimes these foster families, they might not be just bringing children in because they want to help. They might be getting them in to help them clean their house and wash their dishes and make up their beds. And when they're done, they make them sleep under the bed, because this same person shared with me that only that they worked him like a slave, made him do all the house. And I'm not saying doing housework is a bad thing, because it's not, of course, right? A child should have chores and help out, but I don't think that they should be the only person doing all the housework. You know, I don't think that they doing so much housework where they're not allowed to get a break. Like he said he wasn't. Like, again, when we was watching television sitcoms, our favorite shows on TVs, he was constantly working like he was on a job, cleaning up the foster parents' house. And he wasn't allowed to watch television, only to work. And when he finished working, he had to go to bed under the bed. So sometimes it takes you knowing the truth about what's really taking place. And I pray the truth will set people free. Because why? Transparency transforms. Now, do I think all foster parents are bad? No, I do not. I do believe that there are some good foster parents. I do. I do believe they are some. They may be far and few, but I do believe some are, they are some good ones. They're not all bad. Like, I do believe there are some good CPS workers. I met some. It's some that really cares about helping these children, helping these parents to be reunited. But they are also some that has no integrity. And they're more into the money that's attached to these children and being adopted out. And, God forbid, everything else on power trips and control than they are really doing the job of being a caseworker that has integrity. So I know that they are good and bad. And, in dealing with CPS, are they all bad? No. But is it a lot of them that are? Yes. Okay. So, and just think about it. If it wasn't that many, if it wasn't bad people and people who have integrity in CPS, why would we be doing the show? Why would be so many families be impacted by CPS if this wasn't the case? Okay. So I just also wanted to share that and to include that back to my son's letter, because I'm almost done reading what he shared. But he said, yes, he was relieved. He was able to come back home. He was able to eat and drink regularly. I have heard that, obviously, if they'll make a kid sleep on the bed, I'm sure they're not, they're going to be probably particular about what they feed them. Some of them, you don't, like I said, I've actually heard other people say that they would deny kids certain foods they like to eat, and feed them whatever they want to give them. And like my son is saying, I was able to eat and drink again. Okay, when he was able to return back home. He also said, I've never heard him say this before, he felt like he was in prison. And for a kid to say that they felt like they were in prison, to me, that is obviously someone that has been traumatized to even think like this feels like prison. Because remember the famous quote from Maya Angelou that I mentioned earlier, a person may forget what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. And for him to say he felt like he was in prison, he had never shared that with me before. And that hits differently to hear your child say that. Okay. And he also signed the letter saying he liked it more with mom. Any child would. There's nothing like a mom. Nothing. Now, hopefully you didn't have a bad mom. If you had a mom that had integrity and, tried to do the best she could and love, makes you feel loved and support. I know parenting is not easy, but 9 out of 10, I believe most parents do the best they can. So this brings me to the end of the letter that he wrote that he wanted me to share for the families that's dealing with CPS and the kids of these families that's in CPS. He wanted to share his experience of what it was like, since he actually had to sadly experience CPS in their custody, in their care. He also said, he had to meet different people in more homes. And he talked about visiting other families as if, like, he had to be adopted out. Like, I guess, how you meet, different people to see what family that, would be suitable for adopting a child. So he had to meet other families. It was just a lot of changes daily. And I have never heard him say this. It was just a lot of changes daily, daily changes for a child that's on the artistic spectrum, dealing with autism. And we all know on the spectrum there's um, a long list, right, of children. I'm sorry, autism affects children differently, and it's not the same. It's uniquely to that child. But for him to say he went through changes daily, that's a lot for a child to have to go through. I see why children are stressed. I see why they're worried, why they may be even depressed. Because for a child to go through things daily, daily changes, and not in a good way, obviously this is not good for our kids to be in this foster care system. Okay. Um, and he just went on to say his very last sentence was, "They made me feel very uncomfortable." And this is with a child, by the grace and mercy of God, that I was able to hire a legal attorney. I did all the services. I kept fighting. I didn't give up. I didn't put a period where there should be a comma. I didn't put a comma. Well, let me get it right. I didn't give up. So I didn't put a period where there should have been a comma. I kept fighting for my kid. No matter how bad it felt, no matter how tough it seemed, no matter, I didn't know what was going to come out of it. But I truly believe where there is a will, there is a way. And by the grace and mercy of God, God brought us out. He delivered us out of that corrupt, broken system. And I just thought, to help people understand what it's like for children, because they're the ones that's in that system, right? They're the ones that's in there. I'm going to read, Badger Webb says, the foster home my son was sent to for 18 days, my God, had a backyard, but the kids were not allowed downstairs to play. Now, my kid arrived, was given a bar of Dow soap, toothbrush. He slept on urine-soaked bed. My God. You see what I'm talking about? Thank you, Badger Webb, for sharing that. Y'all, this is serious. This is serious. Imagine your children having to sleep in a urine bed full of feces and Lord knows what else. And like she just confirmed, they have access. That foster family had a backyard. What kid don't want to go in a backyard and play and run around? When I was a kid, I loved to go outside and play. You mean you have a whole backyard and we can't go back there? Like the person I know that said they had a bed to sleep in, but they couldn't sleep on the bed when they was in foster care. They could only sleep under the bed. And again, I just want to share with you how these kids are being treated. Hope and pray there is a city official or someone that has authority or has position that will step up and speak up for these children. I don't mind being the hands and feet for these kids and using my voice for them. They can't speak for themselves. It takes a village to raise a child. And I'm so glad that she shared that comment because that just confirmed what my child experienced. Ants in the bed. He can now he's back, he can eat again. He had he wasn't able to eat as much. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought that they gave those foster parents resources for food. I know they give them money. So why are these children not being fed? Why are they being rationed out soap, Dow soap and a toothbrush and, can't go out in the backyard? can't sleep in the bed, but only can sleep under the bed. And again, let me share this disclaimer. I'm not saying all foster parents are bad. I'm only speaking in reference to the foster parents that are bad. And you know who you are. Tess Young says, my kids never get to play outside. They got new scooters and skateboards. They had a bad case of lice. I'm headed to trial soon. Tess Young, I am going to be praying for you. I really am. I'm so glad you're fighting for your babies to get out of that situation. See what I'm saying? There is another confirmation of how her children has lice in their head. And they're not getting access to fun game scooters and things that they will like, that I'm sure they have at home. But since CPS has placed them in foster care, they can't even get their toys. They can't even play on scooters and things that's fun that kids would enjoy. At least since they're going through hell and going through this horror story, at least can you please give them something to entertain them, to try to appease them as they're going through this horror story? Tess also says, my son has been separated from his siblings and moved an hour and a half away and doesn't get snacks, only 3 meals, nothing in between. Tess, I am so sorry to hear that your children are your son is being mistreated. I'm so sorry to hear that. And if y'all think these kids are not affected by this, you can think again. My son is, like I say, this happened years ago when he was a little bitty boy, 4 or 5 years old, and he is nearly a preteen, and he can still remember this stuff like yesterday. He wrote this letter saying, a 3-page letter of how CPS did him, and he can't forget. And he cared enough. He said, Mama, I want to share what they did to me. So the parents and these caregivers of these children in CPS, they'll know how they're treating us. And I hope and pray city officials and people that have authority that can listen to these kids cry. And it's a cry for help. It's a cry for justice. Can you imagine having to lay in a bed with feces all on it, urine and ants all in the bed? You can't even eat regular meals. You're still hungry when you go to bed at night, and you can't even sleep in a bed. The foster families make you sleep under the bed. Oh my God. Our country, we need to do better, y'all. It's a mighty, my grandmother say it's a mighty poor rat that does not have rules for their house. It's a mighty poor rat that don't have rules for their house. It's just the old thing my grandmother would say. And it basically means if you can't govern your own environment, if you can't protect your own children, then what are we doing? Our children are our future. And also, I like to share statistics show that a child is normally safer and they own habitat and they own environment with their parents, with their family, versus being placed in a CPS foster care foster care family. Statistics show that. It proves a child is better off with their family, with the necessary resources that will help them, to be a better parent to their children, provide the necessary services while their children are there with them, versus uprooting the children from the family and placing them in these foster homes where we're hearing today where these children are being neglected, mistreated. How in the world is a child better off with a family they don't know? They won't let them go outside to play. They make them sleep under the bed. They have ants in the bed. They've caught lice. They have to sleep on urine. How in the world is that better than being at home with their family? To me, it sounds worse. Help me make this make sense. And again, I just was led to share what my son was like, Mama, I am, he said himself, I am relieved to be back home. I can now eat again, regular meals. I don't have to have ants in my bed anymore, biting me. As an adult, would you want to sleep in a bed full of urine and feces with lice and ants? Would you want to sleep under your, when you go get in your bed tonight, are you going to get in the bed or are you going to get under the bed? There's no thought you're going to get in the bed. And probably make sure your pillow's real soft under your head and your comforter is real comfortable wrapped around your body. Imagine a child in a whole new environment around all these different faces they have never met before, and they're sleeping on a hard floor under a bed. Just put yourself in that child's shoes. Oh my God, I'm sorry, y'all. Just put yourself, and you'll put yourself in that situation. When you go to bed tonight, don't get in your bed, get under the bed. Get under the bed and go to sleep. And let's see how long you stay up under that bed before you get in your bed. So I don't know what else is going to take for people to wake up and smell the coffee. CPS needs to be rebuilt from ground up. It is corrupt and it is broken. And what they're doing to these children is complete horror by snatching these children out of their homes and placing them in foster care where they are not being treated like a child should be treated. Some foster parents only get kids for the check, for the money, and they're treating the children badly while they're in their care. And I think that these foster parents also need to be having business where they're being checked in randomly at any given moment to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They need pop-up visits. I think, I truly do. I think that this they shouldn't have the leeway of having so much freedom, because I think if they take away some of the freedom that these foster parents are getting, that they will begin to start making corrections. Maybe they'll think twice before they deny a child from going in their backyard. Why in the world would you not let a child go out and play? That's a part of their imagination and creation of growing up, is running and playing, jumping in a tree house, just running and playing, having fun, being a kid. To me, a person that's denying a child of those type of things, they need to be evaluated. Maybe they might or not being a foster parent for the right reason. Okay. Obviously, they're not. A lot of these kids are being neglected or deprived of food. They're not able to, like I just mentioned, sleep in a warm bed at night. They can't even go in certain parts of the house. They're limited to only one soap and Dial soap and a toothbrush. Don't we hear? Don't we see that there's something wrong, terribly wrong with this story? But the question is, what are we going to do about it? That's the $1 million question. See, talk is cheap. Action speaks way louder than words. And I hope today that from the story, a letter from a child that was once in CPS care in the foster care system, hopefully hearing a child's heart of what they put him through, what he had to go through, will make people rethink about their decisions and what they're doing before they make that phone call to CPS. Hopefully, if someone that works at a school, at a doctor's office, at a hospital, at a daycare, a family member that's watching that may be mad at somebody, before you pick up that phone call, think about the letter that you heard today from a child who was placed in foster care because of that phone call. Think about, thank you for the listeners that chimed in and shared what their children are horribly going through by being in foster care, who I will be praying for, because I know prayer changes things. I brought I'm going to tell you this. My son is back home where he belongs and out of that vicious foster care CPS system that's broken. Because I constantly stayed in prayer. My attorney say, God must be listening to every prayer you're saying, because everything that they're trying to do, nothing is working. Okay. So I strongly know prayer changes things. So one's getting ready to go to trial, getting ready to go to your court hearings. Please, if you want me to pray for you, just send in your information in the comments, and I do read those, and I will keep you and your family in prayer. And please keep fighting for your children. I just want to congratulate you. I want to congratulate you for not giving up. I want to congratulate you for staying in the fight. I want to congratulate you for not putting a period where there should be a comma, because God is not done writing your story. When you come out of this, I tell you what, you won't be easily moved by anything. I promise you that. I have had a case investigation at a doctor's office recently, about around December. They were the hospital want me to put my son on some medicine that he tried before that I know that didn't work, and I refused it. And they say they call CPS. But guess what? I tell them, you call whoever you want to call. He's not taking that medicine. Why? Because I have evidence to prove that that medicine didn't work from his primary doctor, who backed me up. And I refused to let him in my home. And guess what? Case was closed. I have a whole new set of eyes. Trust me. And that lady worked for CPS. She was asking questions. I did a conference call. You want to know about my son's history, his medical history? I put on a 3-way with my doctor. She said, no one has never done this. And my Kevin Hart voice, you go learn today. It's the first time for everything. And I am not going to allow you to waste my time, and I'm not going to waste your time. But I've been there and done that. Got a t-shirt and a mug. And I'm not doing it again. So you could kill with kindness. I'm gonna help you help yourself. I'm gonna do a 3-way call. You want to know medical history of my son? We did a conference call, and they provided all the information she needed while I was on the line. And all minds was clear. Amen. Amen. And guess what? The case was closed. And I told her, send me something in writing to validate that the case was closed. And I did receive it. Okay. When you know better, you do better. And you don't fall for anything. When they know what you know, they move different. Okay. God is still good. He is. So with that being said, I hope you stay encouraged. Know you are not alone. You can log on to this platform 24/7 from Attorney Then Show, who's giving out wise legal advice, listening to your personal story, chiming in on my platform, the Beautifully Bruised and CPS show. Not only was I once in CPS, I survived CPS and I overcame CPS. That's the reason why I'm here, encouraging you, sharing with you my experience, praying for you. Please come on here if you ever feel down. I don't care if it's in the middle of the night when you can't sleep before a trial or hearing. Tune in to get some encouragement, some inspiration, some motivation. Like, share, subscribe to this channel. You know, you're sharing your experience. Help other families going through what you're going through to share that they're not alone. You can win if you don't quit. Please keep God first. Don't ever give up fighting for your kids. I don't care what your CPS caseworker says. Mine told me, don't you have other things you want to do with your life? And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? You have people that want to have children. You have people that will long to have a legacy. And God has blessed us with one that we're just going to give up just because you want to make a profit off of them and adoption, or you want to be on a power trip, or this is a political rant. I don't think so. The devil is a liar. Okay. I don't quit. I don't give up. And actually, I'm gonna tell you something. They CPS attorney told me you overcame. Absolutely. Jesus overcame the world. And that same power he has is in me. Okay. So I am a living witness and testimony that God is able. Don't give up. Um, get up. I want you to love on yourself too. Because I know you're going through a lot with CPS. Love on yourself. Get that favorite caramel mocha drink and, get you some good rest so you could be well ready for that next court hearing and trial, wherever it is. I will be praying for you. If you have any special prayers, just put them in the comments. I do read them. I know Grace, the producer, is great about responding back. So we care. You're not alone. Please keep God first. Don't ever give up fighting for your kids. Just know it's not over until God says it's over. And where there is a will, there is definitely a way. Thank you for tuning in to the Beautifully Bruised and CPS show. Until next time, I am your host, Latrika Jones. And don't give up fighting for your kids.